Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Social Sales Engineering livestream. We try to bring you the best people, ideas, thought provokers, and try to sprinkle a little bit of entertainment as we go along into your sales engineering careers every week. And for those who don't know, my name is Lidia, and I am so excited to say that I am a co host now of the Social Sales Engineering livestream. And I am joined today, of course, by Patrick. Hello.
Hi, Lydia. I'm really excited that you said yes. And we spoke about this, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, like after the
Yeah.
show. And amazing. Thanks you for being here and co-hosting the show. Right? It's truly amazing. I think you bring a lot of value actually in here. Entertainment and education. I think we will have everything for all sales engineers out there. Yeah.
I really try, and hopefully, and to a certain degree, anyone listening to this live or the recordings, please feel free to give any feedback, anything. Because after the, because I was, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago, I was on the live stream, and like immediately after you gave me the sort of like the invitation initially, like, oh, do you want to just join? And I was a little bit reluctant initially, just because I've never done anything like this before. So absolutely, if anyone has any sort of ways that we can improve this, make it even better, provide more back to the community, absolutely, guys, comments, DM us, anything from that perspective. But the idea for today is to slightly flip the tables on Patrick. He has been having a lot of guests that he has interviewed through and through, asking a lot of interesting, sometimes uncomfortable questions, maybe. I do remember a very controversial "should SEs be entertainers" session a while back. That's a very interesting one, and I think I promise they won't be uncomfortable.
Hopefully they are.
The idea for today is just to give the opportunity for Patrick not to ask the questions, but maybe potentially answer and open topics that he himself have always wanted to talk about, but never had the chance. So, how does that sound, Patrick? All good? Nothing scary so far.
I would say, yeah. Whoever this is, yeah, no, all good. And then that's stupid, right? Why do we only see LinkedIn user? I say hi to whoever who said yep. Hello, please, can you write your name? It seems like it doesn't come through.
Yeah,
So
it happened. It happened last time as well. We might need to just have a look at that. But yeah, if everyone can just put in their names, just in case, so we can know who to refer to. Thank you.
Yeah, I will talk to the StreamYard support again, because it happens too often. Yeah? But I'm really nervous because I'm never on the site, so it really sounds good. But for everybody who's now here, oh, hi, Jeremy. Good to see you.
Hey, Jeremy.
For everybody who is here, Lydia will join us now, really. So it's not just today, right? So just to be very clear, you are now part of the team. Like, that's what you said yesterday. I hope you know what you did.
Yeah, no. I know I committed. I don't know for how long I have committed, but
lifelong.
But yeah, no, lifelong? Absolutely.
What was the contract you signed with your blood?
Yeah. Oh, that was what that was for. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, on the topic of the live stream, nothing is going to change from, me and Patrick had a discussion around this. Nothing is going to change from, it's still going to be every week. It's still going to be this sort of live stream. We're still going to have a lot of interesting people joining and having a lot of different topics around being in sales engineering. But just, you would have two people bombarding their poor souls with questions. And I think to a certain degree, and why I really wanted to join this stream in particular, was that I think both you and I, Patrick, have very different perspectives on the career as pre-sales. For those who don't know, I'm fairly new to pre-sales. It's coming up to 2 years now, but I still feel like I've just started yesterday. It has to do with the fact that I've been working from home for the majority of that time because of known world reasons. But also the female perspective, the on that hand as well. But it is mostly the newbie versus potentially the veteran. It has nothing to do with your age, Patrick.
I never shared my age. No, no. Of course, I think we are maybe nearly a generation apart. I don't know. It's a decade, over a decade at least.
Yeah.
So, and that's fun,
I'll
right?
ask you. I'll ask afterwards.
I'm 40. That's no secret.
Okay.
But I like the idea of reverse coaching also. And I read about this morning while writing on the new book, and I researched a bit, and it's an amazing concept that actually I think fits in some way too. Like, you know more than me about digital working, growing up that way. I think it's already a difference, right?
I think so
So happy
too,
to
and I
have
think.
you.
Oh, thank you. I think different perspectives always bring a lot of value. So there will be again. We're trying to get as other guests. So now, especially from both Patrick's field of influence, and also I'll try to bring some people that I want to talk to. But also there might be some other co-host only episodes like this one where we just talk about things that me and Patrick potentially want to discuss and open it up to the audience if there's any questions as we go along. But yeah, and as I said at the beginning, and I know I'm repeating myself, but feedback is so important. So if you want to see anything, if there's a specific theme or topic that people want to discuss, please let us know and we'll make it happen. But we'll try.
Yeah, well, of course. And we will bring interesting guests, but hopefully, just between us, there's enough conflict, I would say. So this is interesting, right? There's Irina. Hi, Irina.
Hello.
Great concept. It will be perfect, like always, and even better now. Oh, yes, of
Oh,
course.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
I think you're right. Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
no pressure, right? It's like, whew.
So, what do we want to do? What did we want to do?
Shall we kick off? Are you still?
I
Do
don't.
you want to hold your cup for comfort? No, I'm only
Yeah,
teasing.
I hold my cup. I hold on to
Yeah,
my mat.
yeah.
And
So, should we start chronologically? Let's start from how did you first enter the pre-sales realm? How did that all work out for you?
it's actually a simple story. I worked at IBM as an integration architect, so I was in backend for decades, at least a decade. I worked in services. I worked as development, so we managed a team of developers, and I was in product management. Did a bit of pre-sales, and I did the integration architect when we got acquired by IBM. And I knew I didn't want to stay long there, but I stayed 2 years. But then I started interviewing and had conversation with headhunters, and one was from MuleSoft. I couldn't really decide. There was SAP I could go to, SAP Ariba it was at that time, or the integration team then. I don't know exactly, but they were interested, and then there was MuleSoft. And then I had a call with the headhunter. I know her name, so it was Holly. Amazing, I can remember that. And she said, "Yeah, okay, Patrick, I see you can't decide really. Yeah, we were looking for somebody more senior anyway." And I was like, "What?
Oh,
Stop here, right?" So I know I never did pre-sales, but I know I can do this. So book me in, right? I'm now full on MuleSoft. So with this kind of question, she completely changed my motivation, and I was
yeah.
then sure I want to do that. So it was a brilliant move from her as a headhunter, and I was so lucky then to get into MuleSoft, and yeah, have this amazing journey with this amazing company at the end that got to IPO, that got acquired by Salesforce. This is a once in a lifetime thing that I was happy to, or lucky to, actually participate and to shape. Yeah, and that was my pre-sales career at the end. 5 to 6 years in the role, building the team from zero to, or helping MuleSoft build like on, right. So there are a lot of great people that made this happen, right, and everybody took like a huge back and made this happen. Yeah.
So you came in as a manager, or did you come in as a sales engineer that then sort of, as the team was growing, took that leadership position?
I never took a leadership position because I didn't want to,
Oh,
but
okay.
but the way, yeah, if you're alone in a region, you somehow do everything, right? So
Yeah.
and I worked across Europe with all the AEs, and I always had the feeling we need to build culture in a way that it works. And that's what every sales engineer can do, no matter if in leadership or not. You can push for a certain culture, and that's what I think I did massively. So like, we will qualify on deals, we will understand whom to work with, we will talk with the AEs, and also have account strategy meetings, right, and do this together and really plan out how we will work through this client and or this prospect. I always wanted to be involved. I always wanted to shape this, and I think this, this built the culture in some way. So when new people then came into the region, I think they felt that. They felt how we worked, and that helped. Yeah, and that way, I have the feeling I shaped it. Yeah, it might be delusional or like an illusion from the past. I don't know, but we had a very strong pre-sales culture at the end. That's also Paul Queren was one of our leaders. He had a big part in that, giving us the freedom to actually act this way, right? So yeah, leadership has a great part, and I'm lucky I could learn from Paul also. He's now retired, like last week, I think.
Oh, really?
But amazing leader with, I think, 50 years of experience in IT. So yeah, so I was lucky at several occasions. Leadership, the right company. Of course, MuleSoft hired. They weren't scrappy in hiring. They hired the best people they could get. And and our hiring command was, when you hire something, this person needs to be better than you are. We are only hiring people that are better than the people that are there. That's the only
Oh,
way
that's
we can
really
process.
interesting.
Yeah. And that's what MuleSoft did, and that's why you got in contact with the best team on the planet, I think. Yeah, and around 2018, 19, I would say we had the best pre-sales team on the planet. That was in the market. Really, we shaped the complete. We shaped the integration market. We made something out of nothing. We shaped a new category. We designed something new. And that was, in hindsight, it's amazing to see so the leadership in the US who invented this or did the category design at that sense. I'm so impressed now looking at this after several years and understanding what they actually did and how it worked out. During
How
this
much it
time,
influenced. Yeah.
yeah, during this time, I was not experienced enough to understand this, right? But now after that and running through this again and seeing how the theory works, I did a lot of digging and learning and talking about this with experts. It's amazing. It's simply amazing how this works. So I was lucky, point, right? But yeah,
Well, I would make the argument that luck is not just, you don't get lucky by just sitting on the couch, right? Or just being not there. You obviously put yourself out there and did a lot by yourself. And I think it just reflects that with your career. And maybe you were in the right place at the right time, but I think you did a lot. And just the fact that you were there to acknowledge that, even if you say at the time you didn't have the experience to sort of see the full picture that you see now and are able to relate to other people. But still, there's a lot of value in being in a situation like that and seeing it. I love the story about the headhunter and how she almost challenged you. Like, oh, okay, I'm taking this away, and forced you to make a decision there, which maybe it's not easy to get out of your comfort spot, is it?
yeah. No, it was tough, right?
So,
What was news of this time? I think they had 20 employees or so. The website was like simple. There was nothing, and I didn't really understand what they do, right? Because they were
yeah.
like still immature and tried to compete in a market that was completely saturated by big players. And that was the amazing thing. And I think pre-sales today need to understand this. How do I evangelize a new problem that doesn't exist? Because this is the differentiation for every startup that goes into the market, right? You can't compete head on head against the big players. It doesn't work. Your product is not the differentiator. The differentiator is a problem you solve. And this is something you need to get in your head. Yeah. And that's what I would advise every sales engineer to understand. What problem am I solving? Not what product am I selling, right? That's the main thing, and then you will sell more naturally because you're eventually more attractive to clients. What
Did
do
you
you solve?
have that struggle? The previous roles that you had, they sounded they sound like they were far more technical than sales. Did you
Yes.
have this struggle that Chris White reflects really well in his sixth habit of the pre-sales engineer? The second one was you are in sales. You need
Mhm.
to accept that. That for me was a big hit when I first joined the pre-sales community. Did you have that, or did it make sense to you?
So I, I went through this hero's journey. Like I understood that technicality won't bring you far. So just knowing what features in the product, it the client is not interested. It doesn't matter, right? If you talk with the decision makers, with someone who actually has a problem in the organization, right? So we are big in sales. That's the point. Like, and Manuel just says, yeah.
That was a big
If
hit,
you
Emmanuel. It was just when I read that, and because when I joined the pre-sales, and very sorry, Patrick, I'll let you finish in just a second, but just
no
to
no
cover off Emmanuel, when I first joined, I was still holding on to this. I'm a techie. I'm a technical person. I will keep it with me. I'm not going to become just a salesperson. Nothing wrong with salespeople, right? But there was this connotation genuinely when I first joined, and reading that and talking to people like Patrick in the pre-sales community, it's definitely shifting away to where it's not filthy, it's not a dirty thing to be in sales. It is just, it makes sense. Somebody needs to, tech doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It needs to be sold somewhere. It needs to be somewhere.
exactly. And you're the only person actually who can fully do this. I think, and a large reason why is because even though we are in sales, internally I often felt we are glossed over in many ways.
You
Internally,
mean in the sense of a technical, as a technical team? If that's what you're talking about, then I think absolutely. I did have a little bit before my current role. I had a little bit of pre-sales. I wouldn't say it wasn't a pre-sales role, but it was pre-sales responsibilities. It definitely felt just as if we are just checking the bill of material at the end. It
mm-hmm.
definitely isn't what I do now or what I see that good pre-sales teams do. So it was I think you're right to a certain degree. It is because we're almost overlooked as a technical team. We just go in and fix the problem when the problem exists. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, fantastic comment. Thank you.
Presets presets is different to backend, and this is, yeah, we are in sales, and that's the main point. But there's a huge difference. So most presets are loyal, more loyal than AEs, and they're more expensive to get in and to train, right? And you have to have this technical experience or knowledge, right? But I think it's under the surface. So whenever a customer asks you a question in the discovery call, I think you should say just yes or no. Yes, you're right. We can do this. But why do you ask, right? What's behind the thing? Why are you interested? Why are we here? Why do we want to change? Why do we want to change now, right? So those are the questions we need to ask. But we are completely confident because under the surface, there's all this technical knowledge. We know about the compliance. We know about the features. We know we even know where we want to go with the client. We can imagine in 5 years from now, they will have implemented and maybe a new organizational structure, like a center of excellence that we somehow consult, right? Because we have seen it in other organizations and how this works, and then bring in the tooling to support this. So this is I think what we need to learn as sales engineers, especially when you're in a startup. It's not about the product, it's about the vision for the client, and crafting this new market. We know the product, we have access to the client, and we are interested in our company's culture. And that's unique. And those are the things you also need to design a category and to become the category king with your startup and eventually get to IPO and be acquired by maybe some big ones if this is
I
on the
feel
table.
like startups is a whole topic of its own because I haven't had the chance to work for a startup yet. Maybe let's see. You never know what the future holds, right? But that for me feels like a completely different world of how they even approach not only pre-sales but sales in general in organizations, and being in such a rapid-paced environment. It would be really interesting to either talk it with yourself, Patrick, or have a guest if someone in the audience is interested in talking about their experience in startups, I would be really interested in hearing that story and going through that.
It's
from
a
that
perfect boot
perspective.
camp. It's a perfect boot camp because big organizations then overlook this, right? So as a pre-sales, you might just become an employee that sits here and waits for a demo request. And that's completely wasting your capabilities, like thinking in deal structures, thinking in account strategy, thinking in product, like positioning and marketing, positioning yourself, differentiating yourself. That's also a thing you need to do in a startup, because I think it was 2015 or so, or 16. In Germany, we sold MuleSoft, so it was still like positioned as an enterprise service bus. So we had no chance generally, right? That changed later with the category design. But what I scanned LinkedIn, I remember this, I scanned LinkedIn around this time, and there was a German guy who worked for the competition. And I knew he must be on the other deals where we lose all around, right? Because I knew his company was in. And I looked at this profile. I think he had, I don't know, 5,000 or 7,000 followers even that time already. And he positioned himself as international speaker and everything. And I was like, okay, I had 100 contacts or something. And I knew when I'm in the account and they are a competition, and yeah, the prospect just looks up our LinkedIn profiles, right? I'm immediately ranked lower, right? And this was, I don't know, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
That
LinkedIn is
hit
bigger
hard.
now, isn't it?
It hit hard, yeah.
Yeah.
But those are the challenges, and you need to build your. That's what I mean. You need to build your. You need to create familiarity for the people out there. So when they find you, they see you are an expert, right? In some way, you need to position yourself. It doesn't mean you need 10,000 followers or something. It just means publish, yeah, show your domain knowledge with videos and blog posts or whatever it is, right? But be a bit out there and share this and give others a chance to discover you, right? To have a hook for a conversation. Yeah. And Manuel worked for 3 startups.
Yeah. I think he's volunteering himself maybe for my for my startup episode.
Yeah, that would be a great one.
Yeah. Absolutely. This whole thing about putting yourself out there, it's very scary. And obviously, like you have a whole book on that, and you've written a lot of content around that, and you talk about that a lot. But there's still so many people within the pre-sales and the broader technical field as a whole as well, which they find that so scary to put themselves out there in this sort of way, both social media or just it's this. And I don't like you. I need to stop using this term because I think it's very. You start using it as an excuse, but the imposter syndrome, right? Of I need to be an expert in this field to be able to make content about it, right? And I'm in that boat, right, where I'm like talking about pre-sales. I'm like, I don't know anything. I just sort of, I'm figuring it out. I'm asking people all the time what to do, and I'm not a pre-sales person to ask about stuff. But at the same time, I find a lot of value in seeing people's journeys, and that's, I think to a certain degree, that's how you get people to see you and to make that connection, not only with potential customers or prospects, but also just with other people in the community. And at the start of this year was when I opened myself up for the first time of, getting into this community. And it's been, this show included, it's just amazing of how quickly and how rapidly you get involved in so many things that make you better as an SE. Not only as an SE, but also just as a broader technical person. It's been fantastic. Did you ever have these problems around the imposter syndrome about, because you said, moving from IBM to a startup, that's a big risk. Well, one would say. How did you sort of keep?
It is, and we had the 3 months old daughter this time. So when I started, she was 3 months old, and but I thought if I don't do it, I will never change anymore, right? So if there are no kids and stuff like that, I will never change jobs anymore. That's how I thought this time, and finally I then quit everything and founded a company. But no imposter syndrome, yes, definitely. but I wouldn't call it the imposter syndrome. I would call it missing self-confidence. So
That's a far better way.
what happens when your career is successful? What happens if you start writing? I think as a tool crystallizes thoughts in a way that you actually yourself uncover more of what you know. You become an expert by writing. I'm a firm believer of that, because you need to be so specific on every edge and every corner, right? You need to go deeper, dig deeper. That's actually what you do in writing, right? So build self-confidence is important. So get into control, I think, is the point. Yeah. So if you're a sales engineer and you're always like pushed around, you won't get self-confident because you're reacting. Oh, tomorrow is a demo. Okay, then there's a presentation. Okay, let me provide, I don't know, create this one deck or this one slide, right, and prepare the demo. That's not enough. You're not in control. What you want to do is call your AE every Monday for 5 minutes and say, hey, we have those 3 opportunities. How do they look? Do you need me for something this week? Right? And if yes, why? Why will we win? How does the account look like? Last week I did the demo on that. Why didn't you update me? Why this is now closed lost? Do you dare to do this again, and then it won't work with you again? Because we are a team, right? I want to be your partner. Why don't we work on the account strategy? I don't know why we will win this one account. So those are things how you can get easily back into control, and you build culture, right? Because you're actively providing value. Let's have this deal strategy meeting. I will come with an idea how to reframe the client, right? Because I think they think that way. I want this discovery call. Actually, we need this. And so get back into control. And when you do this, you will see your success coming. Be proactive. And then your self-confidence builds. And I think imposter syndrome is to some part an excuse. It might be shyness. It might be introvertism. There are a lot of words for that, just like saying, I don't dare to do it, right? Or I don't want to do it because I don't see
I'm
the value.
too scared.
Yeah. Sometimes there's really also value. I'm talking about social media for sales engineers to sales engineering teams, and I see like 70% of them fade away. It's just not, I don't really know why. Maybe I haven't found the right words yet, but there are so many benefits when you do this and why this is important. But yeah, it's something. Maybe it's a trait or it's the personality. I don't know, but it's not close to many people. Although there is so much value in that. Yeah.
I think it's difficult to convince, especially in my personal experience talking about this, because again, my personal experience of opening up and being on social media as, you know, the more professional sort of, you know, the professional side being the sort of the push to do that has been incredible, right? In the past couple of months, just, you know, the amount of people I talked to, the you know, my friendship circle has increased tremendously from a professional perspective, just because of putting myself out there. I don't have like a social media plan. Like I don't have, you know, I'm just figuring things out as I go. And it feels like I've invested so little, but I've gotten back so much. But it's very difficult, I think, to relay this feeling or the benefits of this in a quantifiable way that I think a lot of, especially like techie people, find it difficult. It's like, oh, what do I gain from this? You know, what are the numbers, right? What is this going to give me more? You know, if you're in pre-sales, is it going to get me more customers? Is it going to make, you know, my salary higher? Is it going to do this? Like, there's a lot of these like tangible things that you can't measure that you're gaining from this, you know, including finding someone to have a show with, and, you know, sort of being mentored as you do that, meeting people in a community. Again, that's just, you can't really put a number on that and put it as a, you know, 30% increase in your value as an SE. It's not a thing really. And I think that's the difficult part of, in your case, in your job, to sort of convince people that is something that they need to invest in.
Yeah, and that's not what I want to do. I only want to work with people who see this and who want this, and there are enough of them. I can only say who doesn't do it will have issues selling better in the future, because there are a lot of sales engineers already, and especially sales engineering leaders who do this very, very good. So if you're a sales engineering leader, engineering leader today and you need to hire, for example, you have a lot of competition, not only from recruiters or people getting your people away, but from other sales engineering leaders who talk about their amazing culture and the way they treat people and what are the benefits and the challenges and all the cool things that happen in the company. Your people see this, right? So it's in their feed and they get closer and in contact to other sales engineering leaders. And then it's only a small step, right? So in terms of yeah, holding on to people and having them in your organization, for leaders it's also important to be out there and to yeah to be visible so you attract new
Yeah.
talent. That's a real
And
source. It's really happening.
yeah. What you're saying makes so much sense, and I can imagine to a huge degree that is because when you were done, or I say you were done, when you sort of hinted on that earlier, you had your own business. Can you sort of walk me through what is it? Because I know I personally know little bits and pieces, just because I've been I've been communicating with you for a while, but just can you summarize what is it that you do right now as a current role?
Yeah, that's simple. I'm training sales engineering teams. um, yeah, and I work with them in a B2B way. So I have my own company, and
Yeah.
I'm training them and I'm coaching them. My setup is always the same. It's over 4 to 12 weeks engagement. So it's a long-term engagement, and every week I meet every participant 2 times. One time for a coaching or one-to-one session, depends on how experienced they are, and the other thing is a group training where we take the whole group and go through content and entertaining exercises, I would say. So and this is what I do, and yeah, it works. Currently, it works really good. So I'm completely busy, which is good. Yeah,
Fantastic. That's really
and
good to hear.
and I like this, and I come off those coaching sessions, and it's inspiring for me, and it's crazy to see when it inspires other people, just by asking questions, right, or hinting them on something that yeah, I can play with my whole creativity, because I think this is where I best can help. Like working on strategy, that's also a thing I do, consulting on product strategy or selling or preset selling strategy, how to go to market, how to differentiate, right? And this is really interesting then when you work with teams and you can work out what they can do different to actually win over the competition, right? For example, what creative methods to use, a different way of doing discovery, or how to turn around POCs, how to be the unexpected thing in the room with the prospect, so they will never forget you. That's what I love to do, and it works pretty well. And it works with my strengths. Like I was in the field, I've seen this thing working and going on, and I know what it means to actually be different, because you need to be bold, right? It's sometimes like you always have wet hands, and it's like, oh gosh, that's so
Yeah.
much risk.
Tup, tup,
But,
tup, tup.
but yeah, exactly. But that's the fun part, right? And you will learn pretty quick what works and what not. Um,
Yeah.
might get some bruises, but yeah.
It's part of the
And
journey, isn't it?
yeah, it's also part of the journey with founding the company, right? So there were times when we thought, oh my gosh, this money is now very short on money, right? It's like, what do I do now, right? And you're your own sales, you're your own pre-sales, you're your own product developer. But after now, I think 4 years, nearly, it actually becomes better. And also the brand on LinkedIn, or the community that is there, that helps a lot, right? Bringing out the content, having a network, talking to other people, getting the ideas of others is amazing, and playing with that. I think it's just an amazing time also for pre-sales. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I want to talk to you a little bit later. But um, you did say about having the ability to be creative in this sort of sense. Did you think back when you were still being in the pre-sales team that this was a career sort of path that you could take, of you went from back-end development and development and techie role, you went into pre-sales, and then did you think that the next step could be coaching and having your own business with that?
Mm-mm.
Or did it just
No.
sort of happened?
It no, it happened and it didn't happen. So what I did at MuleSoft also, because I said that I was creative in the way we had a time where everybody created new workshops, right?
Yeah.
So this was a MuleSoft thing, I guess. And I had a bit luck with the thing I did. I used domain-driven design. That's a development technology or methodology, and I used the strategic part to actually role play with clients. So they create their own domain maps, and I use this really in a role play meaning. So I imagine I am the game master. I'm sit in the room and ask questions and scribe, right? So, and then they grew this map. So for example, we would say, like, I would ask, what's your core domain? How do we make money, right? And then they would say, yeah, it's all logistics domain, right? So, okay, I drew a logistics circle. And I say, okay, which systems are in this domain? And then they would tell me, yeah, this IT system and this, and there's the website, right? And selling, I don't know. I said, okay, do you have issues with the website? Yeah, it's the only tool that's written in .NET. Everything else is in Java. I'm the only developer. And then you start to see patterns, and you get into value areas you wouldn't get otherwise, not in purely talking discovery. And this was a differentiating model. And at the end, this value map or this domain map mod we created, I beautified this and actually laminated this, and we could send it or posterized it, and we gave it to the CIO, right? So they could pin it on the wall. So they had their whole IT landscape as nice map, domain map that is, on the wall, and this is differentiating. And you could completely talk differently. So we could use excerpts of the pictures in our proposals. So I always wrote technical proposals. I wanted to do this. I wanted to write the technical part to show the benefits of using the tool at the end after discovery. There was so much material, right? So and yeah, I love this, and this is what I then trained. Back to your questions, I had the luck actually. I got allowed to train this to the wider team, the worldwide team. So in some sense, I started enjoying this. Yeah, so I could prepare training material. We would assemble as a team, and that's amazing. Yeah? And after the career, I got actually requested. Yes, I wanted to do that. So after the career, I made up my mind, what do I do for a living? I wanted to write novels. Yeah, this is one, the German fantasy novels. And then pre-sales training, I wanted to do those two things. But I got requested by companies pretty early. Hey, do you want to come? But I always, at the beginning, I thought I will only do online courses. Everything is digital. I don't do anything. I just put my knowledge in there and have a run. But this was completely disastrous. It was, the quality was awful because there was not the experience you have as trainer, as content creator, as training creator, right? So, but it were the first steps, and yeah, that's how things then go. And then you start writing books, and then you know, yeah, and then things work, yeah. And then someday you figure out, yeah.
Hearing you talk about how you sort of figured it out as a something that, I guess, taking a step back, I think one of the things you and I have in common, Patrick, is that we're both quite creative in this sort of, in a very similar way of, both fantasy fans, both, like, I'm not, not comparing to yourself at all, but I like to write, and I'm trying to get into that a lot more. Content creation, there's there's a certain like creativity bug that I think a lot of people share in common. But especially when you bring two people together and looking at yourself and other people within the community and their path of, because when I started the technical role, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be stuck here. I'm gonna be a network engineer, my whole life, and so I become a consultant, and that's it, right? That's the path that you take as a network engineer. First of all, pre-sales wasn't even a thing on my radar to start with, and now coming into pre-sales, there's so many paths you can take from this role, from potentially having your own business, going into content creation and creating courses, because part of our job is to explain things and make it approachable to people. You could be, in an evangelist, like advocate role. I was recently listening to someone talk about a developer advocate, which is something I didn't even know it was a thing that you can
Mm-hmm.
do. Like, okay, all about automation and technology, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating roles that
Yeah.
you'd have no idea. And I can absolutely see maybe, one hop, two hop path from where I am right now into that career. And I think this is such a, going back to the whole why, I guess to a certain degree, why do we talk about pre-sales so much? And like why, I want to get more and more people into pre-sales. That's one of the reasons. Your horizon of opportunities just is huge when you talk
Mm-hmm.
about from, what can you do as a career? Because everyone, actually that's a good question for you, maybe a little bit off topic, but did you dream of being a writer when you were little? Every kid has a, oh, I want to be a firefighter, I want to do this, and some people, myself for example, wanted to be a writer when they grew up.
No, actually not. But I think as a kid I didn't know this. Maybe I didn't grow up. So I grew up in East Germany, and maybe this was not even considered a job, like or a
Yeah.
role you could fit in. But I always thought I want to do something special, and I love reading Karl May. Right? If maybe you know Winnetou,
Yep.
Old Shatterhand, and that stuff. I loved reading this and watching this, and this was my thing. And then the fantasy thing with the role play is actually not. It inspired me, just this foreign world, right? So there's something more, and it was not the writing; it was more the, I don't know, the unknown, right? So the interesting bit behind, that you can imagine a lot of things, and they feel really real. The real approach to writing was 2018 when I said I want to do that, and this was also
Really?
this was serendipity. This was really serendipity
Oh,
because
that's amazing.
so the novel thing appeared 2018, and the thing that happened was I wanted to write a book about pre-sales. That was the thing. It's still there. It has over 300 pages, but the German publisher said German pre-sales don't read. That's their market analysis. We try to publish books about them, they don't read this. Okay, but when I was writing this book, I had an editor, and she said, "Well, I mean, I clearly see you write German words, right? You use them, but your grammar is awful, right? So there's nothing. It sounds like English all the time." I said, "Yes, I spoke the last 4 or 5 years. I only spoke English, right? Because of my job at Musa, and I was in Europe all the time, not only in Germany." So, and then she said, "Why don't you try to write something simple just to train?" And then I said, "Okay, why not? Right? Let's write a small fantasy story." And I wrote the story, and then it was fluent. And she looked at this and said, "Doesn't look too bad," and said, "Yeah, please, let's edit this." And then she edited this, and then this is where I started. And okay, I love this. I love this writing. Yeah, and then I wrote more, and now yeah, I learned a lot while writing, and now such medium posts, right? That I do, they don't take as long as you might think anymore, but that's all training, yeah. And it's a lot of fun, and it's interesting how specific you can get when you start something and then dig deeper and dig deeper into yourself. It's, for me, it's like magic sometimes. I've written 1,500 words, and I think, oh my gosh, where when do they come from?
How did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, but I think it's really all training. So write regularly, and ideas will come, and creativity will come. Your thoughts are clear, are crystallized. I think writing is one of the biggest like tools or skills we can build, because you can use it everywhere, right? Yeah.
I completely agree with you, Patrick, on the writing bit, because I think there is not only, it's not even about being a writer, like a published writer like yourself, or content creation. Even in your day to day, And especially when it's not your native language, even more so, because English is not my native language, neither is yours. But it's so important, especially for us, to be able to clarify our ideas in communication with other people, regardless of what your job is. Even
Yeah.
more so when you start, presenting to people as a job.
Yeah.
But I do want just to highlight, Irina, amazing story about how to become a writer and to find your path. I love that, and I do want to just mention that when I, as a kid, dreamt of being a writer, all of
Yeah.
the stories I would hear is that, oh, you need to be, from a very young age, you need to be very, into literature, you need to get it all, you need to be able to write from a young age. And they, people would write, which was completely untrue, especially if you look at the bios for authors, um, and yourself included. It's not really a thing, and you can become a writer at any age. But it's such a, hearing it more and more and seeing people succeed in, whatever shape that takes, even if it's just to get a, because already just getting the book out there is already so hard. That's a success of its own, regardless if it sells or if it doesn't. It doesn't matter. You're getting yourself out there. And I think that's such an important skill. And so, everyone can write if they're, in a country where literacy is high. Everyone can write. It's not a, but it's a skill that you can keep on mastering and honing as you go along. And it's so important. I genuinely think it's one of the most important skills we have.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second one is public
Especially
speaking.
no, and especially storytelling, right? It's a widely
Yeah.
used term. I think I've read 30 books about storytelling over the last years, and writing novels. So thinking about this also, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough if you just would read them. That's not enough. You need to really work on something that's big enough to make this count. And then you see how superficial and people talk about storytelling, right? And sometimes like cringing, yeah. It's it, uh, it, it,
I
the
I
point
feel like
the
you want
point
to have a full episode on this. Storytelling is a fantastic topic.
it needs time to understand. So there's a quote from somebody. I don't know who this was, but um, everybody knows what good books are until they set out to write one. So it's easy to judge and read stories, but it's massively harder to actually create them because there are structures and patterns that are not that obvious that you can see just with one thing. Most people don't even know why a story in a TV or a book is actually good. Yeah.
But you can always recognize a bad storyteller, right? That's the cool thing. And I think
Yeah.
Elmo really put it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he put it really well. We can all tell a story, right? We can all tell about something that happened, but can we make it that the story resonates with people? And I think that's the key, and that's the art form behind it. How do we make it so that it resonates? And again, to tie it completely back to pre-sales, that's the trick, isn't it? To whatever product you're selling, whatever value you're trying to provide this customer, you need to
Yeah.
make sure that the person on the other side is actually resonating with what you're saying. And
Yeah.
that's the difficult part. And I think where writing is a good training ground for that, so you don't have to be losing deals all the time, even though you
There-
still
there-
most likely will.
There's
But
Lisa Cron, I think that's her name, Lisa Cron, and she said she has a book Wired for Story, and she actually says decisions we can't make decisions without emotions. It's not possible. If we only would have facts, we would never end at a decision. I just saw
that's
her on TED yesterday. It's scientifically proven, and that's why we need stories. And stories help us get emotional and decide, right? And there's a training I do with my participants, and it's called features, benefits, emotions. So what we would do is we get an Excel sheet up, and then we write down, and I would say write down 3 of your features of your product. They write easy 3 features.
yeah,
Okay, so benefits. Give me now the benefits of those features, business benefits. So please
yeah.
don't explain what the feature does, but what's the outcome, right? When this is
I'm doing
implemented.
this in my brain, by the way, as you're explaining. I'm like, from the products that I sell right now, I'm just like, oh, okay, the features. Oh, okay, what are the values?
And then you go into emotions. Now, when we have the benefits, we think about what emotions do we spawn for a specific role? Emotions might be, I feel secure, right? My career is my career is in shape, right? Or I earn more money, or my team is under control. Now, it depends on what you sell. And especially with your security products, for example, it's easy because you can play with fears, right?
Yeah.
You remove a lot of fears. But most pre-sales don't think about this emotion, but this is what you need to talk about. This is when I say, don't start here with the features. You will want to start here with the emotions. And that's when we think on subtle sentences. That's how we call it. So this might be, when was the last time you actually could sleep well at night because you knew your new HR systems APIs are secure? Because we bring you the solution, right? So the API security, whatever. This is the subtle sentence. This is how you should start, right? When was the last time, or do you think your career is progressing? Right? I know you need this new methodology. By the way, we have a tool supporting it. So
Yeah.
you first play with the emotion, and with the emotion, they will remember you. The emotion is what we remember, nothing else. It's not the fact. Never.
No, that is so good, and that's a fantastic tip. And again, I think I've sort of gotten at this point 2 years later. I've gotten to the point of like, okay, I've stopped talking about features. I've stopped talking about values. But this whole idea around emotions is so fascinating, and I absolutely need to do, you and I need to have a conversation, Patrick, around this at some point, because I
Yeah, it's a
think
nice
it's
exercise.
genuinely, yeah.
I'm happy to lead this with teams because there are great outcomes. Yeah, great one.
Yeah, that's the one. Wired. So that's gonna be my homework after the stream to go look it up. Thank you so much.
Wired for Story, yes. She has a new one, Story Genius, and that's really amazing for novelists.
Yeah.
She's really good. First I didn't like her style. I hate reading her because I hear her speaking and I don't like the way she speaks. I don't know why. It doesn't happen
They're just
often.
there are people like that. Yeah.
But
It just sort of
what she
happens.
does in the book, I reworked my whole novel that I'm working right now with what she writes, and it gave me revelations. Like after 4 or 5 years now of writing, I think now I got it.
Yeah.
Gosh, I made
The
everything
penny
else I
dropped.
thought before was wrong because of this and this and this missing, and now I think I got it. But every book has the same. The writing advice is always similar, right? It's all the books build on each other, build on the hero's journey or whatever.
Yeah.
Some try to differentiate now with artificial knowledge, but there's yeah, you just get this after years, I think, because it's so complex. It has so many layers, the storytelling bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and people remember how you make them feel 100%. Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right on that one. And thank you so much for your comments. I need to make sure that this is going to be available for people afterwards as well. This is a
Yeah.
very good list.
Yeah. By the way,
And
my,
I
my
will
wife
be
also. So hey Melanie, she always watches, and she watches the recording afterwards and makes all the agenda and flow so you can click it. So when you rewatch this on LinkedIn, for example, head over to YouTube because you will get a nice agenda so you can click and it jumps you to the exact minute. Thank you, Melanie, for doing this.
amazing. Thank you so much, Melanie. That is amazing.
That's really amazing. And I love Into the Woods. So on this list, one book is really good. It's Into the Woods.
Into the Woods by John York.
Yes.
So highly recommended by two people in the stream. So.
Yeah.
I have so many more questions for you, Patrick, and I do realize that time is never enough when you have interesting things to talk about. Do you have any sort of tips and tricks that you can sort of leave people with some actions, things to look into? I love the idea behind the features, values, and emotions. That's going to be my takeaway from today's episode. Do you have anything else that you want to sort of leave people with as part of the episode? Write more is also another one.
Write more, yeah. So the creativity is not God-given. That's one. It's really just sitting and writing or thinking or doing or posting, whatever. Do it regularly and serendipity will come, right? That happened to me with the map, the sales engineering map. It's really serendipity and all the things. It's just because you do, new things appear. It's like magic. And it's the same in your job. Be brave enough to take control. I think this is one of the main things. Control your emotions, like how you perceive the world. Don't judge situations, right? Try to see them as neutral. If something awful happens with the AE, you don't know what happened to them, right? So don't get angry immediately or have a setback. Like try to stay neutral, talk to them, and get back into control, right? So talk to the AEs, shape the deals. That's all I can say. Control, right? Control what you can control, and accept what you cannot control, and work on that, growing your comfort zone and your control zone. I think this is how you build culture. This is how you get self-confidence yourself, and how you can grow as a person. Because if you get a better person, become a better person, you will become a better pre-sales. So work on yourself, and then go forward. Yeah.
I think it's also so important for new people coming into the role, because I might be alone in this, but when I came in as an SE, I was told a lot of this. Like, you need to take control. You need to understand. Like, you need to be the calm one, the collected one, the one is looking at things far into the future and not just in the now. But as a person who has no idea to what the sales process is supposed to look like, how a deal is supposed to look like, how the communications are supposed to work, that's actually quite scary. And I think that's a really good topic to talk about later on, because it is extremely frightening when you're put in this sort of area of responsibility where you don't know how to tell if you're doing the right thing, other than just things failing around you. But that's something I found, and I'm still struggling with right now. When you say, you need to take control, you need to be creative, you need to be brave enough to do these things. But on the opposite side, you have this fear of, but what if what I'm doing is wrong, right? What if what I'm doing is completely, because a lot of corporations, especially like bigger companies like the one I work for right now, there are standards, right? There's a slide deck with the products that you need to present. And I remember, like, it was maybe the first month when I saw that presentation, I was like, oh, that's not me. I can't use this. Like, I don't like PowerPoint. I like, coming from a network engineering background, I want to whiteboard stuff. I want to, like, show people with my hands where things are working and how they work together. And that was a big shock. And I couldn't be brave and just say, no, I'm going to do it my way. Until recently, where I started only whiteboarding a lot of my sessions. I don't talk to people with PowerPoints unless I absolutely have to, for logistical reasons, or that sort of aspect. And I think that's a really good. It's a good goal to work towards, to being brave. But maybe we might want to investigate a little bit more. How do we get people to that point where they can be brave?
Yeah. I mean, there is no shortcut, right?
It's experience.
You need to feel fear to be brave. It doesn't work otherwise. You can't just be brave, right? So it needs to be something that you are afraid of, to be brave. Yeah, and that might mean, would maybe I ruin the deal by saying this, or by bringing up the slide. I had ugly comics that I brought up, like, essentially. Oh gosh, if I think about this, like upsetting the people in the room, right? And then I tried to work with this and lead to oh gosh. But you need to go through this stuff just to grow and to understand, where are the limits, where are the borders, what can I do and what not. I think, but would be interesting topic to talk about very concretely or precisely, maybe from questions from the audience. Where they struggle, right? So we can have both perspectives, you from a big organization and maybe me more from the startup world, or we have someone from the startup world in here. Would be great.
No, absolutely. Any more? If there's anyone that wants to ask something, that wants to add something to the conversation, please feel free to do that, whilst we're still live. But I think from a perspective, I'm happy with this conversation, Patrick. I got answers to a lot of my questions that have been digging in my head for a while, ever since we first spoke. So I'm happy with that. But
yeah. So next week, there will be Aaron from Consensus. He's the VP marketing, and we will talk about maybe the conflict in there, right? If SEs want to post like in the Wild West, everything that comes across your mind about marketing might think about this. So I'm really looking forward to the session. So I'm looking forward to have you as the partner on there.
Absolutely.
So that will be amazing, with a very interesting guest. So yeah, that's next week.
Really looking forward to that. If anyone wants to find us somewhere on online, you said Medium, LinkedIn. Where else can people find you, Patrick?
Oh yeah, LinkedIn, Medium, YouTube, the social sales engineer. I think when you enter my name in Google, you will come up somewhere. But
You'll
LinkedIn,
find ways to get to Patrick. And if anyone for some reason wants to get in touch with me, I am PacketMage on Twitter. Packetmage.com is my website. There's also many different ways. If you're not very on Twitter, you can get in contact me that way. Please don't be shy. If you have any feedback or any ideas, please go ahead.
perfect.
Yeah.
Emmanuel can speak German. That's great. Bis nächstes Mal. See you next time.
Oh, amazing.
Thanks so much, Lidia and Patrick.
No, thank you, everyone.
Oh, Irina also. Thank you very much. Great. Okay. I think then we will close the show. Thank you very much, everybody. And see you next week.
See you next time.